Hello and welcome to Bonktable. I'm Mass, and I'm going to be doing the third installment of, I guess I've started to call this my 100k guide, or faction overview, or whatever you want to call it. This episode is going to be focusing on the various infantry of 100 kingdoms, and talking about all the things that are happening with that. So, with that, we're just going to go in here. This is going to be in a podcast format for everyone to listen to, as well as on YouTube, so people can watch my screen and just see the things I'm clicking on and be like, oh, that's a thing. So, there we go. First thing we're going to talk about is veterans and relentless drills. These are the two army rules for 100 kingdoms. One of the really nice things about 100k is that they have built-in double warlord, and we're going to kind of talk about that maybe next episode where I start going over lists and combinations and such. But we're going to focus on veterans and relentless drills here. So, veterans. You can designate any number of regiments in your army to be veterans. In veteran regiments, all officer models cost double the points. When an officer model is added to a regiment with a leader and standard bearer, choose whether the regiment will either add +1 to its clash or volley characteristics to a maximum of 4. Modifying veteran regiment's characteristics and paying the additional cost of officer models takes place when creating your army list. The maximum of 4 restriction on clash and volley only applies during list building. So, you can get it higher, above 4, if there's some way you can do it. Don't really think there is. I know there's like 4 with Inspire gives you rerolls, so I think the only way you could get above 4 is somehow you gave, I think it's really just on the Mounted Noble Lord, because you can take him, you can give him Graceful Combatant, no, not Graceful Combatant, you can give him like the Duelist, where you give him +1 Clash, what gives him Clash 4, then you give him Olfane's Roar, where it gets him up to 5, and then he's running his Warlord Supremacy, where he's rerolling 6s on impact attack. So, you could do it there, but that's just for a character that doesn't go with veterans. I think this max 4 is really just in place in case they start adding officers to regiments that are already 3 or 4, and they don't really want them to go higher. This would be like Ashen Dawn. Yeah, that's about it. That's all I can really think of. I think that's the only regiment in 100k that has base Clash 4. Everything else is like 3 or below. So that's the first army rule, and we're going to talk about that more once I go through more of the regiments, because some of them will benefit from it more, and others will benefit from less. With veterans, though, the big one is that you're spending points on the officer. So with the Steel Legion here, if I want to say, hey, you're veterans now, go to officer, drill master, he's 40 points. If I take veterans off and I check the drill master, oh, look, he's 20 points. So there is a price associated to it to get them up to that +1 Clash or volley. It's mostly used on Clash, because the only thing I think that's a range regiment that can get the +1 volley that I probably mentioned before in the Shooting and Magic episode, what was before this, is Militia Bowmen. And if you're taking Militia Bowmen, just take more crossbows, it's way easier. And a Hunter Cadre, what are probably what you want to put volley on. And then you get the command model. So there's 10 for the banner, 40 for the drill masters, 50 points to veteran these guys, veteran perk, +1 Clash. There you go. Steel Legion are now Clash 4 with 6 attacks. Sweet, not bad. I'm a fan of veterans just because I roll very poorly and I like to hit. So if my target number to hit is higher, it makes it easier for me to roll my dice and to be able to match that target number to hit. The only problem with veterans is there is a cost associated to it. And so a lot of regiments are not going to kind of get the benefit from it. Like, it's kind of weird. If you want to veterans things that are going to do a lot of damage, so like Steel Legion is one that you want to veterans. And we'll talk about Steel Legion a little bit more and kind of what their troubles are and what they're good at and all that later on in this episode. But I'm kind of just using them as an example right now. They're a good one to veterans because getting to Clash 4, inspiring to reroll 6s. You got 6 attacks each. Just on the MSU, but you just paid 50 more points for all that. On 3 stands, what is defense 3, resolve 3, and 4 wounds, like they only got 12 wounds in an MSU. Like, they're gonna die pretty quick. And then you're generating 6, 12, 18, 19 attacks at cleave 2. So I usually bump up the stands to 6, so they have 12 extra wounds in the back to kind of hold on, or I increase their frontage to get more damage out. There's pluses and minuses to this. So, but these are only one of the regiments that I would actually go out of my way to veterans for a melee unit is Steel Legion. However, with the next army rule, that is Relentless Drills, and I'll just go there. All infantry stands in the army gain the Support 2 special rule. If a stand already has a Support X special rule, it gains Support +1 special rule instead. So, all regiments get Support 1. Some regiments get Support 2. So, Gilded Legion here. We're just going to go to no army rules right now. You can see baseline Gilded Legion have Support 2. So, every stand that is not on the front rank, you get 2 attacks for all your back stands instead of 1. Sweet, great. So, what's even better? Taking Relentless Drills, and now they all get 3 attacks for the back rank. This encourages large brick units in 100 Kingdoms, because now Support 3, and let's say we go up to like 8 stands, and you're running them 3x3. Let's go 9. Screw it. 9. You're perfect 3x3. Well, your front attacks are only 4, and you've just lost 1 attack on 6 stands. Do some quick math here in the head, live on camera. Let's see here. So you lose on 6 attacks. So it's what, a stand and 2 attacks worth of attacks lost. But your frontage is lower. Yeah, not that bad. Let's see here. I'll pull up the calculator. There's a lot of these. Your 4 attacks base times 3. You get your 12 plus 1, so you get 13 in the front rank, and then 3 times 6, 18 plus your 13, so 31 attacks. Still really good by a 9x9, especially at Clash 3, inspiring to 4. We're going to talk about some buffs and some combinations that go on here, but you can really pump this to reroll 6s. There's a couple ways to do it. And so, yeah, there's at 31 attacks at Cleave 1, you're just getting a lot of output. The nice thing about Relentless Drills is that it's free. There's no cost associated to it. You just say, hey, my army rules Relentless Drills, good to go. I like both, and I like both in certain aspects. There are some regiments that I say, hey, if you want to make this regiment work and do a lot of stuff, probably going to take veterans. Hey, if you're running a lot of large infantry bricks, take Relentless Drills. 2 large infantry bricks, like if you're taking a big block of Gilded Legion, taking a big block of Household Guard, I would strongly suggest Relentless Drills, because Veterans isn't going to do as much for you as Relentless Drills is, because it's going to save you points where you can spend those points on additional stands. So Gilded Legion here are 45 points for an additional stand. If we just swap this back to Veterans really quick, grab a Banner Bearer for 10, grab a Drill Master for 40, Veterans +1 Clash. So we now have paid 50 points for +1 Clash going to Clash 4. I think our attack output is less. Because you got 6 times 3. No, I did this wrong. 2 times 6. There we go. Plus your 13, so you get 25 attacks. But you're at Clash 4. So it kind of evens itself out, is what the math is really saying. I know this works. I'm not going to show it or anything, but I've seen other people kind of bring it up. But Veterans is slightly better for output by like 1 or 2 points at most. So you're going to get like 1 or 2 additional hits. However, Veterans has basically 50 points for its cost to get everything there, while Relentless Drills is free, and you're just going to get like 1 attack or 1 hit less than you would. While that could be another stand of points. So I could take Veterans off, drop the Drill Master, because I don't need them. I said drop the Drill Master, please. There we go. And then I can spend those 40 points on an additional stand. If I have 5 left over in the thing, I'm good to go. Boom. Done. Okay, so that's really it between Veterans and Relentless Drills. I need to get that out ahead of time, just because these 2 abilities are going to affect various regiments, and I'm going to talk about Relentless Drills and Veterans for each regiment that can take them and use them. All the melee guys, I think, except for the Orders and the Sakari from the Theist Priest, can take an officer so they can have access to Veterans, but most of the time you're going to take relentless drills, and I'll get into each one why as we hit up all these. I am going to talk about each of the characters that are melee focused, so like the Imperial Officer, the Noble Lord. Theus Priest I kind of already covered. He's decent enough, but we're going to talk about Sakari and Order of Sword and Order of St. Lazarus. I know they're not out yet, and they could possibly change from what they currently are. However, I still want to talk about them just because they're interesting picks what they're doing now. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. However, I just kind of want to discuss them because why not? That's really what's going on there. So with that, let's get into our first warband is the Imperial Officer. Imperial Officer, supremacist ability is rapid deployment. During your reinforcement phase, choose up to 2 friendly infantry regiments per round, currently not on the battlefield, after rolling for reinforcements to gain the Vanguard special rule. Always considered active until the character is destroyed or left the battlefield. Doesn't really matter. Basically, if he's your warlord, you're getting this until the end of the game. Vanguard on 2-year infantry regiments is very good. It used to be better. I understand why it had to be pulled back. I wasn't really a fan of it being pulled back to be a worse version of the Shaman supremacy. I'd rather have seen it be changed to something unique to the Imperial Officer and separate from another faction, because one of my issues when you have something very similar between factions is like, okay, one of these is obviously better. For 100 Kingdoms, because it only affects infantry and it's 2, the Nords one with the Shaman affects brutes and cavalry and their infantry, so it has more things it can choose from. However, Vanguard on 2 things is still very powerful, especially if you're running infantry. Imperial Officer Warlord is not always considered an auto pick at this point because of this change. What's actually a nice thing for a Warlord, because it allows you to dip into other Warlord abilities in the faction. Still very strong, still really good. I really do like it a lot still. Really good. I guess I should go through the stats. I do it for everyone else. Imperial Officer is 90 points. He is March 5, Volley 2, Clash 2, 4 attacks, 4 wounds, Resolve and Defense 3, 0 evasion. He is the middle of the pack support stat line. This is as much support character as you're going to get who has decent defense and decent resolve. Like, he's not amazing on the Clash, he's not amazing on attacks or wounds or resolve or defense, but what he has going for him is all the support he's going to be providing to the regiment that he's in and to the army itself. He is one of the best support characters, I want to say, in the entire game for what he is doing. And really, he's running a lot of passive effects, and you can build him really well. And because he's a baseline 90 points, he's actually a very cheap character to get into your army. So, next ability, Forward Force, non-mounts to regiments as character stands currently attached, you gain the Flank special rule. Flank, you just auto in. This is really good because the Imperial Officer has some great warband choices in the faction. I think his warband is probably the best in the faction. I would Orders would be the one that I would say is a runner-up to how good his warband is. Before the Orders were out, the Imperial Officer had the best warband, and a lot of 100k players were just playing double Imperial Officer and then maybe grabbing Healy or Fire Mage for shits and giggles. As time has gone on, that has changed. I'm really glad for it because you get to play with more of your toys, and that's kind of one of the things I really like about Conquest is getting access to more of your toys. So, Imperial Officer, really good. Let's start talking more into this guy. So, Forward Force, we've already talked about. He has 2 heavies that are really good, Gilded Legion, Steel Legion, so having Forward Force and then putting him in one of those regiments gets them out on turn 3. If you're running both Gilded and Steel, who are taking up your 2 heavy spots, turn 3 comes around, you say, hey, I'm going to flank on my Steel Legion as my auto-in. I'm going to Forward Force from the Imperial Officer, flank on my Gilded Legion, what's my auto-in, or, you know, wherever he's in. And they both show up on the table turn 3, and you're like, let's go! And then, because you're rapid deployment, and you're choosing 2 regiments to gain Vanguard, Gilded Legion and Steel Legion love Vanguard, gets them up the table really quick, gets them to position really fast, really puts pressure on your opponent. We have just talked about his supremacy and his 1 special rule and how good 2 of his regiments are. Well, not deep into them, but they are very good. But he still has more stuff he's doing to support the army. This is how good he is. The next big one is battlefield drills he has. He has 4 battlefield drills. 2 of them are kind of focused melee-wise. 2 of them are focused range-wise. However, That's not necessarily true. You start doing some weird stuff with him, and I think I might have mentioned this on the shooting episode, what you can do. So I'm just going to go through them, and I'll tell you kind of the mix and matches. So brace for impact. Regiment is attached to, gains the Bastion 1 draw event. Sweet. On your feet. Regiment this character's attached to currently gains the double time draw event. Sweet. Fire first, aim later. Regiment this guy's currently attached to gains the fire in advance special rule. Fire in advance says your second action, if it's your volley action, you may take a free additional march. So if you take aim, shoot, you can march. If you march, shoot, you can march again. Okay, cool. And lastly, we have aim for the head, gives you murderous volley. Murderous volley draw event. To end around the regiment performed taking it. The regiment has performed a take aim action. Wounds caused to a regiment within 12 inches as part of the regiment's volley action cause morale tests. This one's fun. My only issue is that it's restricted to range 12 from your shooting regiments. So if someone's within 12 inches of you, because you have to take aim first. So you got to take aim, then shoot. So your opponent's regiment that you want to deal murderous volley to has to be within 12 of you when you activate. And that's kind of my issue with it. It's not very maneuverable. Like if you could walk, then shoot, and it has to be within 12, okay, you can get there because you put this on more crossbows, they're range 18. If your opponent's within 17 inches of you, you can walk up 5, shoot the 12, get those morale tests going. Pretty good, but because it is a take aim, then shoot, and they have to be within 12, it's pretty tough to get off. This murderous volley is usually tied in with fire in advance because you'll take aim, shoot, then move. You'll either move forward aggressively or you'll move backwards protectively to keep your opponent from just bum rushing you, because if you move back 2.5 inches, that puts 14.5 inches between you and your opponent. So hopefully they can't just march charge you, or there's something in the way and keeps you safe. That's kind of what's going on. For melee and infantry specific stuff, brace for impact for +1 bastions, super good. A lot of defense 3 infantry, like defense 2 a shield, defense 3 base. So getting that to defense 4 is really nice. This can also combo with the Theus Priest +1 defense spell. So Gilded Legion with Imperial Officer, you draw the Gilded Legion. They bastion from the Imperial Officer. They go from 3 to 4, and then they get cast upon by the Theus Priest for his +1 defense spell. So they go from 4 to 5. They resolve 4 base. Very strong, very tanky regiment at that point. Going to be a pain in the ass to kill. On your feet, double time. I like double time because if you just march, you can then do a third march. You could do some really funny things with double time because fire first, aim later, and on your feet can combo because the Imperial Officer can activate 2 draw events from his battlefield drills on a single regiment instead of the regular 1 draw event like a lot of other factions have for restrictions and characters have for restrictions. So normally when you do draw events, you can only activate 1 draw event per regiment. However, the Imperial Officer being in that regiment says you can activate 2. And this is really nice because you can start comboing these 4 draw events together in various ways. So fire first, aim later, aim for the head. You can take aim, shoot, move. Fire first, aim later, and on your feet, you can march, shoot, trigger the fire first, aim later march. So you now have a second march. That triggers your double time march because you did 2 marches, but then makes you march a third time. So you can go a lot of different places. It's really funny. That's one of my favorite ones, and I just call it the scoot and shoot. Because you could just they're a little too close. March back to just be within range of them. Shoot them. Double march back another 5 inches. And, people are like, God damn it, now I gotta chase these guys. It gets funnier on Imperial Ranger Corps or Hunter Cadre and stuff because you're just doing better damage. So yeah, he has an assortment of stuff that's very good. Usually when you're running infantry with him, like Gilded Legion and Steel Legion, you'll just grab Brace for Impact on your feet, to be honest. Nothing wrong with that. Still really good. Bastion's just a really good one to have, and he's going to be given a note. For masteries, let's talk about Art of War. Art of War is not bad. Once per round, while the character stands on the battlefield, the player may forego their draw command card step and pass to their opponent. This is kind of just a stall. It used to be a lot worse to pick because you had to take Tactics 3 for your retinue. Now you just have to spend 30 points for it, so it's So it's now half price. So it used to be like 60 points to get the damn thing. Now it's 30. I like that. I haven't taken it yet. Haven't really been playing much with the Imperial Officer lately. So since the change, haven't really gone into Art of War. I've seen other locals play it into me, and I'm just kind of like, yeah, whatever. You're just playing city states for a turn, like, or is it just a turn once per round? Once per round, yeah. So like, you gain access to city state strategic stack for 30 points. Like, whoop-de-doo. I still don't care when city states do it. I'm not gonna care when 100k player does it. That's a personal thing on me. I know city state strategic stack does get a lot of work out of it if you time it right. And same thing can happen for Art of War, but it is 30 points, so it is pretty pricey for an upgrade. What does Rally to Me do? When this regiment's character stands can attach to for the draw action is treated as a regiment automatically succeeds a resolve test. 25 points for that. Not worth it, to be honest. Eccentric fighting style, we'll talk about that when we get to the Noble Lord, because he has some fun stuff you can do it. Frontline Tactician. Character stand gains the forward 4 special rules, so you can flank. Imperial Officer already has that. Frontline Tactician is 20 points. Not bad on the Noble Lord, but the Noble Lord's going to take some other stuff. Long Lineage for 15 gets you 2 upgrades from your heirloom selection. That's nice. It's got combat as well, so Overkill, Disorienting Strikes, Marksmanship, Exposed Weakness, Tip of the Lance. I've kind of gone over a bunch of these, like for melee stuff, Exposed Weakness. During a duel, enemy character stands cannot ignore or reduce the number of hits. Okay, whatever. Disorienting Strikes is 10 points, and this is what a lot of people grab if they have 10 points left and nothing else to upgrade, because enemy character stands subtract -1 from their clash characteristics when they participate in a duel against this character, so keeps your character alive a little more if your opponent goes from like Clash 3 to Clash 2. Overkill, I don't think I've seen anyone usually do Overkill, so for each wound this character stand causes during a duel, the regiment that enemy character stand is attached to must make a morale test if they've been allocated a wound. Usually you want to win the duel, so Disorienting Strikes or Exposed Weakness is just a better grab. Disorienting Strikes is usually the one that's grabbed, just because people not hitting you is really good. I know Cassandra and I did a dueling episode, so if you want more information about this, I'd really go check that one out. But it's kind of it for like masteries and tactics. Let's go to heirlooms. Tons of heirlooms, and because the Imperial Officer is doing so much support with his forward force, supremacy ability, automatic battlefield drills, he likes to grab support heirlooms. Banners no longer have a tactical retinue caveat, so you can just pay their points. What's really nice. Standard of Steel, this is kind of one that I grab a lot when I was super buffing Steel Legion to make them more defensible and survivable. It gives the regiment this character stands currently attached to Dread, and Dread stands in contact with this regiment can no longer inspire. However, if you have always inspire, you get around this. So, pretty good, you know, people being no longer inspiring, so if they're Clash 3, they're not Clash 4. If they're 4, they're not rerolling 6s. And that ties into another big upgrade he'll grab that you'll usually throw on an Imperial Officer is the Armor of Dominion. Enemy stands in contact with this character's hand lose the Cleave, X, and Smite special rules. This is huge, because the Imperial Officer tends to buff the armor with his Bastion +1, the defense native of 3 of Gilded Legion and Steel Legion going to 4, and reducing everyone's cleave onto you is really good. There are very few factions that have cleave on support. So this is what tends to happen. You have an Imperial Officer in a regiment of Gilded Legion. You run them 3 wide, so you have the leader, a grunt stand, and the character of the Imperial Officer, or you run them 4 wide. That's one that usually comes up. So the Imperial Officer is more centered in the middle. And then when you charge your opponent, or when your opponent charges you, they kind of line up so that hopefully they're, 3 in front, so that, and let's go with the best example. They're 3 wide, you're 4 wide. You charge into them and you line it up so that your Imperial Officer is in the middle of all 3 of those stands. Let's say it's Minotaur Thyrans would have a Cleave 3. Well, Armor Dominion now says they can no longer, their Smite and Cleave rules go away. They're 0. Yeah, here. Let's put that on. Boom. There we go. They lose their Cleave and Smite. So that limits all the damage dealing they're doing. you have your Bastion up, so your defense 4. They're going to be attacking you at their clash. You're going to be rolling defense 4. It's going to be really good for you. Maybe you have a Water Mage you're healing. Maybe you got a Thieves Priest who's bumping them to defense 5. At that point, Bob's your uncle and you're doing whatever you want. The only limitation for Armored Dominion is that your opponent's stands must be touching the character stand. And because it's one stand, the most stands you can touch are 3 stands. So you want to make sure that you're touching optimally 3 stands with this character if you're running Armored Dominion. So if someone charges into you and they are running 3 stands and you're running 4 stands and they connect 2 of their guys into your Imperial Officer and one of them is not touching, well, guess what? That stand in that regiment gets to keep their cleave and do that cleave damage to you. This also goes into support attacks. So if your opponent is running, let's say, 8 Household Guard and is running 3 wide, and the front 3 Household Guard touch your Imperial Officer, they will lose all their cleave 1, but the support attacks from the back Household Guard will still get their cleave. And that's something you have to watch out for. Another one with Armored Dominion is you don't really want to be flanked, because if you're getting flanked by Dragon Slayers in the side, well, you are now no longer, your Imperial Officer is not touching those Dragon Slayers, so they're going to get all their cleave and all their attacks and just rip through you. So you really got to position well when using Armored Dominion, and it's a very powerful tool. It's a very nice thing to put on the Imperial Officer because he is already doing the support. What did I say? Like, he's kind of doing the support build with his various other abilities. And that his 2 regiments that you're usually going to sit him in, being the Gilded Legion and Steel Legion, really want to live for 2 various different reasons. Being in the right position to get the most out of Armored Dominion is very strong for you and something you want to do. Besides that, I know people have put Kiss Farewell on him to give him a gun. He's volley 2. Like, it's like, don't really bother. A lot of this other stuff, I don't really bother with him. Mantle Sick Nicholas is for Devout. He can't take Elysium Fragment. I don't really throw on like any of the weapons on him because you have better options in the factions for damage output from a character. There's what else? I think there's one more thing in here. Is it Gilded Rampart? Yeah, we'll talk about that one. Shroud of St. Lazarus, +1 resolve, and the Fearsome special rule. I've seen people do that. I don't know. It's not bad. If you have 20 points left over and you want to get +1 resolve on like Gilded Legion to 5, really good. If you want to give +1 resolve to Steel Legion, because I think they're resolve 3 base. Yeah, going to +4 is going to help them out a lot. But there's a couple other things you can do. Just take long lineage. There you go, dude. However, so he can very much build into a variety of different support roles. There is kind of 2 schools of thoughts for characters. You either put the abilities on the character that will support the regiment they're in, or the army, or the warband they're in, or whatever they're trying to achieve and do. So for me, I like to, when I was building this guy out, I would Standard Steel Armored Dominion with his upgrades, and I would throw him in a unit of Steel Legion, and the Steel Legion would live a lot longer, and because they're Cleave 2 Steel Legion, you do a ton of damage back. So that was kind of the build I was going for. I was going for character upgrades that would help and support my regiments. The other school of thought is to strip out as many upgrades as possible, because it is points you are spending not on stands, because Standard Steel, Armored Dominion, both 40 points, that's 80 points right there. Long Lineage is another 15, so it's 95 points. Let's see here. Gilded Legion is 45 each. So 90. So that's 2 stands of Gilded Legion right there that I've just put into upgrades onto the Imperial Officer. So you kind of have to look at it like that. Do you want to spend all these upgrades, or do you want to get more troops to die for you? Because 4 wounds on a lot of this infantry, as we're about to find out, is not that great for durability. There might be some hints of what's going to happen and what I'm going to talk about. However, I love the Imperial Officer. This guy is awesome, and I think he is going to be running one of the best warbands for 100 Kingdoms. So let's get into the troops for his warband. First off, Men-at-Arms. You can take Men-at-Arms in a bunch of things like Chapter Mage, Noble Lord, Imperial Officer. We're just going to talk about them here. Men-at-Arms are 105 points. They're medium. They are March 5, Volley 1, Clash 2, 4 attacks, 4 wounds, 2 resolve, 2 defense, and evasion 0. They have the Shield special rule. I'm going to take off his Warlord. There we go. They have the Shield special rule in their leader. They have a Standard Bearer, and they have 2 different officers you can take. You can take a Seasoned Veteran for 20 points to give them Bastion 1 draw event, or you can take a Neophyte, what gives them the Devout special rule and Priest 1 for the purposes of enemy interference. So the regiment counts as Priest 1, if an enemy caster has been like 10 or 12 of them, whatever it says in the rulebook, it's been a while, they will be in interference. Devout says, when the regiment with this special rule is the target of a Priest X spellcasting action, 1 failed spellcasting die is converted to a success. If the regiment has a character sign attached to it with a special rule, then the regiment also counts as having Devout as long as the character sign remains attached to it. This is more for the Theist Priest and what he's going to do. I'll talk about his supremacy. I might have talked about it in Magic. It's been like a month since I've recorded that episode, so you have to bear with me if I remember it. Or it might just be a little refresher. Who knows? Men-at-Arms, though. These guys are your objective chuds, as Cassandra has put it. These guys are going to be sitting on zones, scoring points. They're a medium infantry. They're 105 points, so it's a steal for their cost. At Clash 2 and 4 attacks, they're not going to be doing a whole ton. At Defense 2 and a Shield, they can kind of survive. Like, they can diddle around and, like, take a hit. If there's a dedicated hammer coming, they're just going to die. Resolve 2, they're going to run away. Like, Resolve 2 is not that great. This is kind of, like, one of the chuddiest stat lines around. Their real job is literally just sitting on zones, being 105 points as a mainstay to unlock your restricted options, as well as being good enough to get in the way to speed bump or anvil or pin stuff. You can do a lot with Men-at-Arms to just run around and be annoying. The only time I've had Men-at-Arms ever win a fight is when Phalangites from City States March charged me, and then I got to inspire Clash into them, and then for the next 3 to 4 turns, we just inspired Clash into each other until Men-at-Arms won because we got the first one off and did enough damage to win. So they're not really, like, rocking the world, but they're also not designed to rock the world. I know there are some people who like to buff this regiment out to, like, 6 or 8 stands, because they're only 35 points for additional stands. You put them in veterans, you throw a banner on them, and, put them at 6 veterans, and then you put the Bastion on them and give them +1 Clash. Oh, so they're Clash 3 now, inspiring to 4. Okay, so now they can hit. That's pretty good. A problem with and then they're bashing to, like, defense 4 as well, like 2, shield to 3, 4 from Bastion. So now they can take a hit. The problem with this is that they're usually a low priority in the activation. There's other stuff you want to get off, like Gilded Legion, Steel Legion, Household Knights who are doing a charge, Crimson Towers, Ashen Dawn. There's better fights than a block of Men-at-Arms, because the other issue is even though they're defense 4, they get hit by, like, cleave 1 or 2, they're down to defense 2, they're still resolve 2. So any of those hits going through is going to be taken on resolve 2, so they're just going to take a bunch of damage that way. As well as being 4 wounds, that's going to fade very quickly. If you're a 6 stand brick of them, you're just going to fall apart very fast because you just don't have the defensive stats to stick around. And it goes into the wound and resolve stats of this regiment of why they won't stick around. So that's why I don't really find putting a seasoned veteran on them, making them veterans so they actually do some decent, like, they can actually hit people with their Clash, bring a big block of them. It's just not worth it at that point. If you take off vets, take off seasoned veteran, because you gotta draw event into it that gives your opponent time to get them before they go to that defense 4 and go into relentless drills with the 6 stack. Okay, support 2, not bad, get some more attacks from the back, but you're still not doing really anything offensively. You have better anvils, like dedicated anvils that are going to be higher defense, higher resolve, better stats that you just want to, or better offensive stats as well, that you're going to be pushing into people than Men-at-Arms. Men-at-Arms I just restrict to, you're going to score a zone, You're a mainstay unlock for the restricted options. You can pin and speed bump very well as just kind of getting the way and controlling the board space. Because like having a bunch of men-at-arms allows you in your reinforcement pool to like just roll a bunch of dice, and it's like, okay, you know, I'm getting my various mediums that I want out on the table, like household knights, household guard. The men-at-arms are there just to add for dice to that pool, and then as the game goes on, they can just sit in the back, score zones, or they can run up and just get in the way. That's kind of my men-at-arms ramble. They're really just there to score points. Next one, militia. Okay. I am not a huge fan of militia. I will say that now. Have I come around on militia a bit? Yes, I have. Militia, you're not really going to be veteraning these guys. They have support 2 base. Turn that so you can see it if you're watching this on YouTube. They have support 2 base. So putting Relentless Drills on them, getting support 3, as I talked about earlier in my Gilded Legion example, you're just going to get more attacks and it's free, what allows you to spend points on additional stands. Militia are 95 points and they are all light. They are March 5, Volley 1, Clash 2, 4 attacks, 4 runes, Resolve 2, Defense 1 with a shield being Defense 2. This stat line is even worse than the Men-at-Arms. So what's going for them? They're incredibly cheap. 95 points for 3 stands and then 30 points for an additional stand is super cheap. You can very easily make this thing like 9 stands very quickly. And then you would grab a banner for 5, also super cheap. And then you want to grab a Servite for 15. The reason why you want to grab a Servite is because the regiment adds +1 to both its March and Resolve characteristic. And the currently attached character stand also gets +1 to their March. So that's going to bump them up to Resolve 3, March 6, and they're much quicker. Especially if you're running a big block, it'll do really well. You're usually going to throw these guys with a Theist Priest in there. He's going to be casting his various spells. I think I talked about this, you know, like Saint's Favor for the +1 defense or evasion, so that'll get him to defense. 3, it's not bad. Heavenly Blessing for Bless, so that's going to help out with their mediocre Clash of 2. So if the militia charge in or inspire Clash to 3, and you've already blessed them because you're a Theist Priest, you activate the Theist Priest first, you bless the militia, you charge in, and then you clash, so you're already inspired, so you go from 2 to 3, re-roll your 4, 5, 6s, get a bunch of hits, and because you use the Entourage ability with the Theist Priest, use the draw event, I'll just grab it now, the Elysium Fragment for the Smite Bomb. I'm pretty sure I talked about the Smite Bomb on the Magic Shooting episode, because it was an arcane upgrade. This is kind of where you're going to be doing it. Just with Relentless Drills, you just get so many more attacks off of the militia, and because they are so cheap, and then with Blessed on top of that, you're just going to be hitting a ton, and that's really going to blow something up. It's once per game, and you really got to set it up to do work with it. So it is there, and it's better to use than it was before. Servite Militia is kind of my way to go, and kind of how I play them when I do play them, and what I am looking for. I've seen other people who are like, oh, I'm in a Veterans Militia. I'm like, they're not really worth it, the Veterans. Like, going from Clash 2 to Clash 3 on such a weaker thing than Men-at-Arms that I'm like, don't bother veteraning those guys. Like, it's not working out. Militia die in droves. They're not durable at all. They're cheap. You can run MSUs of them, but at that point, if you're running MSUs of Militia, you might as well take Militia Bowmen that are 75 points as a mainstay buy to unlock Restricted, because 75 to 95, like, just go with the cheaper option if you're doing it that way, because if you're just running them around as MSUs to get in the way, you might as well just go for the even cheaper thing to get in the way. I'm looking at like a big brick of 9+. It allows you to take some hits and still have damage around and available to do damage back, because the only thing keeping these things alive is their wound amount and the amount of stands in the regiment at that point. Last upgrade I'm going to talk about for these guys is Errant of the Order of the Shield. The regiment always counts as having inspired. It's pretty nice. Command stand adds +2 to their attack characteristics. In addition, a character stand attached to this regiment adds +2 to their attack characteristics when participating in a dual action. Errant of the Order of the Shields, not bad. He's kind of more focused on dueling and giving you guys always inspired. Because the regiment is always inspired, I believe the character in that regiment will gain always inspired when participating in the duel. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. Just drop a comment below or join the Bonktable Discord to tell me about it, to clarify that, because I'm not 100% on that. I'm pretty sure that's how it works, but I have known to have been wrong before, and that's A-okay. So, this is a contender. However, being faster and having +1 resolve is super nice on the militia, because being resolve 2 sucks. Being defense 2 or defense 1 with a shield to 2 also sucks. Yeah. But that's kind of what you're doing. You're really just like going to make a big ball of them. You're going to throw him with a Theist Priest. He's going to give him the Smite Bomb. They're going to do a ton of damage. They're going to be a bunker for the Theist Priest with all those stands. After your Smite Bomb goes off, there's still a ton of attacks with Blessed into an opposing regiment, so you can still get work done into like lights and medium regiments. They're not really going to punch up into heavier armored things that have higher defense or abilities, but you could kill some stuff that is relying on, let's say, Harden to as its defensive stat just through sheer volume of attacks. So once they get into a big enough size, they start having value, but I don't value them at MSUs, because if you're going to grab an MSU militia, you might as well grab a militia bowman, because they are 75 points. Yep, 75. Did it. Next, Gilded Legion. Woo! Just drop you down to 3. You can take off all your upgrades. And do not. Okay, so baseline Gilded Legion. 145. It's a heavy infantry regiment. They're March 5, Volley 1, Flash 3, 4 attacks, 4 wounds, Resolve 4, Defense 3, 0 evasion. They have the Iron Discipline special rule. When this regiment is engaged or suffer wounds from the side or rear, it does not lose the support X special rule. It does not re-roll successful morale tests. Very good. This is the pork in the porcupine. Cleave 1. It's nice. You know, get some cleave in there. Pike formation, another great one. Enemy regiments suffer -3 to their impact special rule to a minimum of 0. When in contact with this regiment in the front arc, in addition, enemy regiments that have performed a successful charge against the regiment's front arc do not benefit from the inspired and shock special rules into the end of round. Losing out on inspired on that charge is very helpful for keeping the Gilded Legion around, not losing support, and not re-rolling successful morale on the side from Iron Discipline keeps them around. They have support 2 base, so they take Relentless Drills to support 3 very well, as I've mentioned before. 45 points for additional stands, pretty cheap there for what they're doing. Banner for 10, not bad. And then you have the Seasoned Veteran and Drill Master for your 2 officer upgrades. So Seasoned Veteran as before, you get Bastion. Drill Master, you get +1 to attack characteristic and double time special rule. I would not give Veterans Gilded Legion because they are support 2 base. Giving them support 3 and saving those points for additional stands is very good. I have seen Drill Master on them. Not so much Seasoned Veteran, because if you're grabbing an Imperial Officer and he's in the Gilded Legion anyway, he's going to be giving them Bastion, so you don't need that. Taking a Banner and Drill Master is not bad, because then their front rank is doing 5 attacks. If the character ever dies, they have double time anyway. It's mostly for the +1 attack, and if you've got points left over and you can't buy additional stands, might as well throw the 20 points in there. You don't necessarily need it just because you're going to be getting so many support attacks if you're going through Relentless Drills. What's going to be really good for you? And these guys love being a big-ass brick, so, you know, getting 8 or 9 stands, let's go with 8. With an Imperial Officer, I usually, if I got points left over, will grab Armor Dominion on the Imperial Officer and throw him in the Gilded Legion. Banner of Steel for Dread is countered usually by Pike formation if people charge into you. They're going to be losing that shock, or sorry, not that shock, they're going to be using Inspired and Shock. What's just going to keep your guys alive more because it's less hits. Then that's going to allow you to counter back with all your support, cleave 1, and just unload into your opponent. Because this is such a heavy brick of just tons of stands of wounds, going to be high defense when you get that bastion off. They already have a high resolve of 4. Your opponent is going to be trying to put those like high damage dealers, those high like cleave 1, 2, or 3 stuff into it. That's why Armored Dominion's kind of good on the Imperial Officer with the Gilded Legion, because it reduces that. Watch out for shooting, because you're going to be in a big brick of these guys, so guns want to shoot you because Armored Dominion does not affect armor penetration or armor piercing. And magic, because I believe it's AP as well. So watch out for that. Kind of puts a big target on your back, but you're going to be zipping up the table with Vanguard, Flank, Double Time. You're going to be getting where you need to go. Gilded Legion is this is the infantry anvil of 100k, and it really shows and does really well. So let's go to Steel Legion. I love me some Steel Legion. So let me just clear all this, talking about all the things. There we go. So, baseline Steel Legion. They are 165 points. They are a heavy infantry regiment. They are March 5, Volley 1, Clash 3, 5 attacks, 4 wounds, Resolve and Defense 3, 0 evasion. They have the Bravery special rule. So, stands of this regiment, including the character stand, ignore the fearsome and terrifying X special rules. In addition, at the start of the regiment's activation, after resolving any draw events before performing its first action, remove the broken stats from this regiment. I know Cassandra and I have talked about Bravery as our rule of the week. This is a fantastic rule. You can break and then, you activate the Steel Legion and then immediately unbreak. So there might be a time where someone hits you last in the turn and you break and you can't score a zone. Or, they hit you first, you break, you activate Steel Legion, they immediately unbreak, you Inspire Clash, ripping them apart. Great times all around. Big thing that sets them apart from everyone else, and especially everyone in the faction, is Cleave 2. I know 100k has the most advent of armor piercing 1 in the entire game. Like, if you're like, wow, I love Cleave, Brutal Impact, and armor piercing 1, go play 100 Kingdoms. It's freaking everywhere. I think 51 to 56% of the regiments in the faction have it. But Steel Legion gets away as our Cleave 2 regiment. This is really what bumps them up to being why you want to grab Steel Legion, just because of Cleave 2, because sometimes you really need to kill somebody. Oblivious. Regiments of special rule receive 1 wound for every 2 failed morale tests rounded up. Character stands do not benefit from the roll unless they have it. Keeps them alive a little more. The Resolve 3, they can get, like, if you're, get them up to, like, 6 stands, they'll go up to Resolve. Will they go up to Resolve 5 at that point? 4, 6? If you have an Imperial Officer in there, they'll be 7. So yeah, you'll be like Resolve 5 for a stand. Maybe I should have that chart out. But higher Resolve tied in with Oblivious will just keep them around longer, because you'll be taking less Resolve wounds. And then it'll take 2 rounded up for each wound, what also reduces a ton of damage coming in. So if you fail 1 Resolve, you're still going to take a wound. If you fail 2 Resolve, you're going to take a wound. If you fail 3 Resolve, what is it? You'll take 2 wounds. Take 4 Resolve, you'll take 2 wounds. So it's kind of like all even numbers is what you're looking for. Pretty sure. Give them a Relentless Drill for support too. So let's go and see what they got. Standard Bearer for 10, and I think they just have a Drill Master. Yeah, Drill Master. So Steel Legion is one of the few regiments that I would say maybe you can get away with veteraning them. So if you take 6 stands, you go veterans, tell them veterans, and you give them +1 Clash. So they're Clash 4, inspired to reroll 6s. You can give a lot of Clash 4 out into 100k because some things are Clash 3 base, like Gilded Legion, Steel Legion. Household Guard, will talk about that nonsense after this. But being Clash 4 with reroll 6s and 6 attacks base, you kind of want to run a long front line, because they're only going to get 1 support attack, so you want to run like 4 or 5 wide in the front, have 1 or 2 stands behind you, run in, charge somebody, clash them, rip them apart with all your attacks, because 6 attacks on the front is really strong. However, it is a ton of points. 365 points for 6 stands and all these upgrades for Standard Bearer and Drill Master and Veterans. It does get a little pricey. One of the big things that 100k has going for it is the cheapness of regiments and just throwing bodies at a problem. However, once you start paying for those upgrades, it does stack up quite quickly, so you don't really see a ton of veterans. These guys are your high-end damage dealer because of that Cleave 2, because of, Clash 4 base, 5 attacks base. They do really well just running around as MSU, so, 3 stands, no drill master, just with a standard bearer. If you just MSU with a standard bearer, at 175, that's a good price to pay for what they're doing at Clash 3. Cleave 2 for 16 attacks, you're still going to get a lot of work Inspiring to 4. And they will do enough. So if you can hold someone with, say, your big brick of Gilded Legion, or, pin them with some Men-at-Arms, or maybe you just get the charge in first and do a ton of damage, Steel Legion will do damage. Their big issue is that they are Defense 3, Resolve 3, 4 wounds each. As a heavy, this is not a very good stat line. They do not have the defensive characteristics like the Gilded Legion built in. Like, the Gilded Legion got Iron Discipline, Pike Formation, and Resolve 4. As well as they can take a seasoned veteran for an officer if they really wanted to. I tend to find Steel Legion die faster than Gilded Legion just because of that difference in Resolve. Also, their stands, it's 50 points for additional stand, while Gilded Legion is 45, so it's a little cheaper on the Gilded Legion, just to get more wounds. As well as having support 2 when they're Cleave 1 to attack people. So, Steel Legion usually get killed very quickly because of that Defense 3. Any amount of Cleave or Armor Pierce really rips them apart. If someone attacks you at Cleave 1, you're going from Defense 3 to Defense 2, and Defense 2 is not very good. Any Resolve going through is on Resolve 3, and if there's Terrifying, that's not going to be very good. Like, no, you have Bravery, you're fine. However, still Resolve 3 isn't that great, so they kind of have some issues there, and also their wound count being at 4 just kind of says, like, I'm going to die. Wound 4 is going to be very common across for 100k regiments, like Men-at-Arms 4, Militia 4, Guild Legion 4, Steel Legion 4, House of Guard 4, Sakari 4. all the shooting regiments 4. Household Knights, Sealed Temple, Mountain Squires 4, 4, 4, 4. Like, there's not a ton of 5s or 6s or anything. Like, I think Ashen Dawn are the only 6, and I think there's 3 5s. Order Sword, Order St. Lazarus, Order of Crimson Tower. Yeah, I think there's only 3 5s in the entire faction. Like, 4 wounds is very much a kill, like a chip damage kill stat. Like, if you have 4 wounds and you take, I don't know, let's say 6 AP1 shooting, you roll your defense 2, you save 2, and then the other 4 go through, there's a stand. Like, you're very susceptible to chip damage. You're very susceptible to dedicated hammers. Anything that's like Cleave 1 or 2 will just rip right through you. Dear God, if a Cleave 3 comes in or a Smite guy comes in, you're just dead. They really don't like it. They do not want to be charged. They do not want to be shot at. They really want to be kept safe until you deliver them to your opponent. And as players have progressed, they've recognized that, and Steel Legion are harder and harder to put on the table simply because their defensive stats and trying to protect them are just not there enough to safely get them to your opponent. A good opponent will see them, will set up a way to counteract them and kill them, or limit their offense and then kill them as they're stuck in fighting some gibberish or, some chaff regiment like Men-at-Arms or Militia. However, I still do like them simply because they are your source of Cleave 2 in the entire faction. And that's why they are a standout in 100k. So yeah, Imperial Officer Warband, really good, has some really good melee options for infantry. Gilded Legion stock was down at the start of version 2, and Steel Legion stock was up. And as the game has changed and shaken up, Gilded Legion and Steel Legion have swapped. So Gilded Legion is on the rise while Steel Legion is down. Will that change in the future? Who knows? I still like both, but for completely different reasons. Let's go to our next warband, the Noble Lord. Oh boy. At 90 points, he is March 5, Volley, I don't even know why I'm bothering with the volley. It does not matter. He is March 5, Clash 3, 4 attacks, 4 wounds, Resolve, and Defense 3. So already off the bat, he is one higher Clash than the Imperial Officer, but the rest of his stats are the same. So what makes him the combat guy of 100k? Well, like everything else, it's the upgrades. So let's start with the first one, Supremacy ability. So if you're going to make this guy your Warlord, you're going to get a very good Supremacy. While this character stands on the battlefield, all friendly infantry regiments within 8 inches of this character stand may reroll unmodified rolls of 6 when making defense rolls. In addition, they may reroll unmodified hit rolls of 6 during clash action. This supremacy ability is considered to be active. So let's talk about this one for a little bit. He has an 8-inch bubble around his stand. Not the regiment, his stand. It used to be 6, what really sucked. Now it's 8, what's much better. But it also has a very strong ability offensively and defensively. So initially, you're going to be placing your regiments within 8 inches of him so that they get to reroll that unmodified roll of 6 when making any defense roll. If that's from magic, if that's from shooting, if that's from clashing, if that's from impacting, if that's from whatever the heck. Anytime you get a defense roll, you get to reroll that 6. Very powerful, very good. On top of that, you get to reroll your unmodified hit rolls of 6 during your clash action. So if there is another regiment within 8 inches of him, if he touches one stand, that entire regiment benefits from re-rolling their 6s. This is really good in the brick builds like Hedgehog that are kind of running around for 100k lately, because he is providing that bonus. It's super good. In increasing the size of it, also super good. It affects him as well as his own regiment, what's really good. What I do like, I don't think the reroll of 6s is because it says during the clash action, it won't be for duels, but the reroll of 6s for defense rolls will be affecting him for duels or anyone in effective duels. What is really nice. So him being a warlord, his warlord stock has gone up since Cassandra and I did the Supremacy episode. What makes him a really good choice as a warlord. His next thing he's got going on for him is his weapon arts. So he gets to pick 2 out of these 5 weapon arts. First one is Weapon Master, gives him Cleave 1. Okay, sweet. This is pretty good. He's got 4 attacks base at Clash 3. Let's say he's the warlord. Now he's rerolling his 6s. He's inspiring to 4 reroll 6s. Okay, sweet. That's actually a really good way to do stuff. What else he's got? We got Relentless for Flurry. Well, if you're Clash 4 rerolling 6s, you don't really need Flurry. Powerful Physique gives him Tenacious just to himself. Not bad, but what else you got? You got 2 more. You got Duelist, which gives him +1 Clash. So he goes from Clash 3 to 4. Then he's going to Inspire for reroll 6s on top of Best of Men for reroll 6s. Probably not needed, because you're not going to double up on the reroll 6s there. Graceful Combatant. This is the one you're going to be grabbed. The character stand gets +2 attacks. So now he went from 4 attacks to 6 attacks at Cleave 1. Okay, sweet. This is really good. I've kind of gone over a couple of these masteries, but there is one you might want to grab. Eccentric Fighting Style is 25 points. And it says, this character stand gets +2 to his attack rolls and reroll failed hit rolls and successful defense rolls. So that makes him 8 attacks, Clash 3. We're going to make him Clash 4 in a moment. We're going to give him Regalia of the Empire, it's going to make him Clash 4. But he's going to reroll all those attacks, and he's going to be Cleave 1. So there's a very high chance that all his attacks are going to hit. So you're usually going to get between like 6 and 8 Cleave 1 attacks into people, and you've only spent 25 points on him at this point. The next big thing is, we're just going to talk about Regalia of the Empire right now. Household Guard Regiments. This character stand is currently attached. You gain the Dauntless special rule. So Dauntless says, this regiment never be broken and always counts as having the Inspired special rule. Characters benefit from the special rule only if they have Dauntless themselves, as far as the characters have gained the special rule from blah blah blah. So much rating. Sorry, let me redo this. This regiment may never be broken and always counts as having the inspired special rule. Character stands benefit from the special rule only if they have Dauntless themselves as part of their characteristic profile or have gained their special rule from an ability. Character stands, etc. In instances of regiments or stands can never benefit from inspired special rule. This rule supersedes it. So this is an always inspired special rule. When the regiment clashes, he will be getting its always inspired. If he duels, he will not be getting it. 25 points. Okay, so he's 140 points, and he's going to be going in a unit of Household Guard. And already he's kind of a little bit of a melee monster, just because he's going to smash you at Clash 3, reroll everything. He's Cleave 1. He really wants to just chew through troops. He doesn't really want to duel anybody, just because Defense 3, Resolve 3, and 4 wounds is not a very good dueling stat. For offensive weaponry, let's say you wanted to kind of deck him out to duel. Caliburn, target stand may reroll failed hit rolls during a duel action, and the opposing enemy character stand must reroll successful defenses. Not a bad one. Flesh Cleaver is actually pretty good. Character gains Fiend Hunter and Deadly Blades. You're really just grabbing this for 50 points for Deadly Blades. If you do fight a brute or monster, sweet. But Deadly Blades, even just into infantry or whatever else, is really good because you get to, if your opponent rolls any 6s, especially if you're taking the thing that gives you 8 attacks and reroll your attacks, they suffer 2 wounds instead of 1, so you can watch people really blow up if they roll really poorly. Unwrought, brute regiments reroll successful defense rolls when resolving hits from this character stand. This is basically if you have 5 points left over and nothing else to do, that's the only time I'd ever grab this. Most of the time, though, Noble Lord's going to be grabbing Regale the Empire. There has been talks of throwing Armored Dominion on him just because he's going to be sitting in a unit of Household Guard. But Armored Dominion can basically go in the Imperial Officer running Gilded Legion or Steel Legion. It's just going to be better for them. Mostly Gilded Legion. So we're just going to grab Regale the Empire because that's usually what he goes. The weapons for 100k aren't that great, to be honest. Like, there are some things. Lorien Lance isn't that bad, but like every faction, there's usually like 5 decent ones. And in 100k, if you, I'll probably do an episode with Cass, and we'll talk about that more. I guess like more consistently. I'm running out of words. We'll talk about it more there. But each faction has like 3 to 5 ones that you're always gonna pick, and then like 3 to 4 tech pieces that you're gonna pick only if you're also taking that thing what benefits from it. Is what I'm saying. And a lot of heirlooms you're gonna find are not really worth it. So here we go. 140 points. Noble Lord, all decked out. Clash 3, 8 attacks, rerolling fails. Cleave 1. He's gonna get a ton of work done. Who's he sitting with? He's sitting with the Household Guard. Don't bother veteraning Household Guard if you have taking a Noble Lord and he is the Warlord. Usually a lot of players only take 1 unit of Household Guard because of what's about to happen with these guys. And they don't really take more. If you were taking multiple units, maybe Veteransing would be decent, but their support too, so Relentless Drills is just going to be better. So, Household Guard, 135 points. They're a medium infantry. They're March 5, Clash 2, 4 attacks, 4 wounds, Resolve, and Defense 3. They have Cleave 1 and Support 2. Additional stands are 40 points. So, off the bat, they're pretty cheap medium at 135 points, with Cleave 1, 4 attacks, Clash 2. The Clash 2 isn't really the best, inspiring to 3. However, that Support 2 really gives you a good idea what you want to do with them, because their additional stands are only 40 points. So you're saying, well, what if I grabbed like 8 stands of them? And then what if I went into Relentless Drills and gave them, or what if I went into Relentless Drills? What if I took Relentless Drills? So now they're Support 3. Okay, that's not bad. Noble Lord is going to be with them, so that's going to give them Best Amends. They're going to re-roll their failed rolls as 6 on their Defense 3. And they're going to re-roll their failed hit rolls as 6 when they clash. So 2 inspiring to 3, re-rolling 6s. Okay, well, fail on 4 and 5 is not bad. Grab a stand bearer for 10 points. They're going to be doing a bunch of work. They're a big regiment. And then you take the Arms Master for 20 points. What's the Arms Master do? Well, he does 2 things. This regiment re-rolls failed hit rolls a 6 during the clash action, period. Full stop, period. That is 1 sentence. So, okay, well, they re-roll failed hit rolls a 6, but I'm taking a Noble Lord in this regiment, and his Best Amend will, that's an override. I don't want to double dip. There's no reason to take an Arm Master. It's the next sentence of why you want to take an Arms Master. While a Noble Lord character stand is currently attached to this regiment, the regiment, including currently attached character stand, adds +1 to its clash characteristic instead. I'm going to say this one more time. Instead. So instead of rerolling 6s during your clash, you will get +1 clash. Sweet. Noble Lord, best of men, any unit of Household Guard. Noble Lord says, hey, your clash of 2 is now 3. Household Guard goes, sweet, thanks, man. Noble Lord says, oh, I also took Regalia of the Empire, which says, Household Guard regiments with me attached gain Dauntless. You also can now never break and are now always inspired. They go, sweet, my clash of 3, because of Arms Master and you being with me, has now gone to 4, because we're always inspired. Thanks, Noble Lord. And the Noble Lord says, whoa, hold on a moment. You're the best of men. Here's a reroll 6s as well. And the Household Guard go, wow, I'm clash 4, reroll 6s, cleave 1, with support 3. And you go, Jesus Christ, this is the medium killer. That's what this regiment is doing. And that's why you never veterans this regiment. This is 140 plus 365, 505 points for 8 stands with the Noble Lord. This is a very durable medium. Defense and Resolve 3 is pretty good. That Resolve is going to be knocking up to the sky because you're like 9 stands. So you're going to be failing on 5s for a while. If you take a Chapter Mage, we can heal them. That's also really good. And then you're using the just sheer numbers of bodies of like stand count to survive with 4 wounds, 4 attacks, and then 3 from the back. You're not really missing out much if you're just running 3 wide and then just like 2 lines back or whatever. You're still getting a ton of work. Noble Lord in there is getting like 8 attacks at the front, so he's really cleaning up, re-rolling your defense rolls of 6. Like, he is doing so much for this Household Guard regiment. And then on top of that, he is providing that re-roll 6s on clash and defense at an 8-inch bubble around him. So if the Gilded Legion are standing beside him, their defense 3, they bash into 4, re-roll 6s. Theist Priest here casts his Saint's Favor for +1 defense. So Gilded Legion now defense 5 with re-roll 6. Like, what the fuck is happening? The combos are starting to happen as I go through this list. It's starting to go crazy. My only caveat issue about these combos is that they all have to happen before your opponent starts doing stuff to you. So once the lines start getting drawn, people start fighting, you're not going to be benefiting as much from your defenses being higher up because, you know, the Guild Legion have to activate for Bastion, the Thieves Priest has to get his spell off. To get to that +5, they have to be within 8 inches of the Noble Lord stand to get that reroll 6s. Like, you know, there's a lot of factors going on, and you got to play the scenario, you got to play the table, you got to see what your opponent's doing. So a lot of things are happening. So there's never going to be like the perfect setup where you're going to be getting everyone in there. I've had it happen once where I got Gilded Legion, Household Guard. I think it even was the Militia. Because I caught them on the tail, and then there was like a unit of Merc crossbows just standing around benefiting from the defense, like the reroll 6s. Like every once in a while, you will get that perfect setup where the Noble Lord's Best of Men bubble is just touching everybody. Everyone's going off. It's a huge pain for your opponent. Keep checking 8 inches around the Noble Lord whenever anything moves, or before you move in and want to get into something, just to make sure, like, can you get there? Is a way you can do it, because that Best of Men bubble is so strong and so good. Its only limit is that 8-inch range. So if you set up for it, if you prep for it, if you guys have regiments side by side ready to like get hit and hit back, you'll really benefit from it. It's very easy. I don't want to say it's very easy, but it's easier when you're marching up the table to engage your opponent to have that bubble touching Merc crossbows, Gilded Legion, Household Guard, Militia, you know, all those other regiments, because, you know, you can position yourself around there. Once the lines get met, once there's charging done into zones, things go places, and you're going to have to, you know, figure it out from there. But at minimum, the Household Guard are going to be an absolute pain to kill and get through. And this guy's going to blender regiments. Do I want him to duel? Not really. He's going to be re-rolling his successful attack rolls with eccentric fighting style. And at defense 3, you're just asking to die if anyone has any cleave at all, like Dway, Coningir, Polomar. Then you're just gonna get ripped apart. So he is really designed to just kill troops. Household Guard are really designed to kill troops. I find Household Guard are very good at killing other mediums. They are very effective at killing lights and mediums. And they are good enough to give heavies a bit of run for their money, but usually they die out once they start hitting heavies because they've just taken sustained enough damage that a heavy comes in and cleans them up. But, the rest of the stuff in your army can go deal with it. I really like Household Guard and what they're doing and all their stats and bonuses going on with them. Next warband is the Order of the Sword. So we got the prior commander of the Order of the Sword. He's 90 points. He's March 5, Clash 4, 6 attacks, 5 wounds, Resolve 4, Defense 4, Evasion 2. Oh my god! Now this is a stat line. This says I can take a hit, I can deal damage back. He's Cleave 1. Sweet. He's got the Supremacy of the First Blessing. I kind of talked about this one a bit for during the horse episode, just because Ashen Dawn and Steel Temple and Crimson Tower were there. So it's once per game. Regiments in his warband gain Blessed. If you already have Blessed, you get a Harden 1 or +1 attack. He's going to be given Blessed out to like Order of Sword or to St. Lazarus or anyone else. That's really all I'm going to be talking about for that one. If you want the full thing, the horse episode's available, so you can listen to that. He does not have a retinue. He does get masteries, so you can take eccentric fighting style on him, give him +2 attacks and rerolls, get him up to that attack 8. That'll get him up to the same kind of attack as the Noble Lord. Being defense 4, rerolling successes, little better than the Noble Lords, especially. Heirlooms, put a Flesh Cleaver on him. He's not a bad choice of it, even without the eccentric fighting style. He's not a bad choice. I wouldn't really put Armor Dominion on him. I wouldn't put Standard Steel on him. He kind of just wants to just run around and stab people. And kind of duel people. He has a decent dueling stat line. Caliburn's not a bad option either, with the reroll to hits, and opponent must reroll successful defenses during duels. He kind of wants to do that, so I guess Disordering Strike, keep him alive that way. But there is one build I should talk about. But yeah, he's got nothing like super amazing, but he's pretty good. Like Clash 4 is really good on a character. He's going to be doing some hits, 6 attacks, pretty good, 5 wounds with his Resolve and Defense of 4. Evasion 2 is the really big one. So any cleave coming into him, you're going to be having 2. And because of that, there have been talks of taking the Bakanan token for 10 points, which gives you Evasion 1 to a max of 3. So then that reduces your opponent's cleave into you. And then at that point, I don't know, you maybe take Long Lineage and then go into Caliburn and just be a dueling monster at 6 attacks, cleave 1, reroll hits, reroll fails, or make your opponent reroll fails. You got Evasion 3. Not a bad build. The Noble Lord is kind of designed to just cut through infantry, while the Priority Commander is a little more designed to cut through characters. Because he's not out, I can't really say a ton. I'm really grabbing the Priority Commander of the Sword, Order of Sword, Order of St. Lazarus, just to talk about them as they are currently. So if these guys change, this is just extra stuff. If they don't change, okay, well, there's some opinions on them. I don't mind the Order of Sword stat line. He used to be way better when Retinue was around, because you could just get him to cleave 2, 9 attacks, you get some crazy stuff. But because of Retinue's gone, he's kind of fallen more in line. He has a really good base stat line, but with various upgrades, Noble Lord kind of comes out on top, is really where I'm at. But he's kind of more designed to kill infantry, while the sword guy is kind of designed to kill characters. However, he'll still rip through infantry as well. 6 attacks on Clash 4 is still very good. There's nothing wrong with this. But his heirloom selection is kind of more tilted towards dueling, and the 100k doesn't really have that great of heirlooms for weapons and stuff. So you could take the Flesh Cleaver. It's 15 points. That's not bad. Yeah, If you you have 15 points left over, I'd throw a Flesh Cleaver on this guy. 6s do 2 wounds, that'll be fun. Fiend Hunter reroll, yeah, there we go. It's not bad. You want to keep them cheap. Order of Sword. Let's talk about these guys. They are medium infantry for 170 points. They are March 5, Clash 4, 4 attacks, 5 wounds, Resolve 4, Defense 3, Evasion 2. They have Cleave 1 and Counterattack. Counterattack. I don't like this rule. During an enemy regiment's clash action performed against the regiment, each unmodified defense roll of 1 causes 1 hit to the active enemy regiment. These hits do not benefit from any other special rules that affect the clash action. Character stands with the special rule include the dual inflict 1 hit to enemy characters for each modified defense won't benefit. So, you take a hit, your defense 3 or evasion 2, not bad. So, if any cleave comes into your evasion 2, that's kind of like the big thing that's going on for Order of Sword. There's not very many, not a ton of evasion in the faction, so having that on a regiment is really nice, and that's kind of one of the things I like about Order of the Sword. Counterattack, I'm not so much, just because, I roll like 3 1s, roll a bunch of 2s, roll a bunch of 3s, stuff lives, stuff dies. My opponent then gets to make his save against the counterattack. It's not like Lethal Demise, where every wound done is damage back. My opponent has a chance of just preventing it if they're like defense 4 or something, or, they get to roll their defense risk stat. They might even get to Tenacious that off. This is the funny part. I'm just going to go read Tenacious really quick. Whenever there makes a defense roll, treat 1 failed die roll success. So there you go. So they even get to Tenacious it off if they have it. Wow. So counterattack's not that great, to be honest. That's why I don't really like it, and it's just one of those rules in the card where you're just kind of like, oh, okay. Things that are going for it, though, is that, its banner is only 5 points. It's freaking awesome. Cheap banner as well, 5 points. Is that it has a high base clash of 4. 4 attacks is pretty regular on a lot of human troops, so that's pretty standard. 5 wounds is actually an oddity in 100k infantry. That'll keep you around a little longer, especially with the high resolve of 4 and the evasion 2. Those are also really good. So, they actually have a decent defense profile, as well as being a medium with a Clash 4 and Cleave 1. An MSU of these guys, with the banner at 175 points, is doing really well. I don't know if you'd ever bump them up to like 6 stands with the Relentless Drills. You never veteran these guys because they have no officers. I would for sure take Relentless Drills because maybe you're gonna be putting an or prior commander of the sword in them. Maybe you're gonna grab an extra couple stands for support or additional wounds. You can do some stuff, but I really would just take this as an MSU with a banner, and then unlock my Ashen Dawn from there. To be honest, they're good enough to like sit on zones and just kind of kill stuff, and they'll be happy with that. They have a really good stat line just to kind of like trade. I feel 5 wounds and resolve 4 with evasion 2. That's a pretty good defensive stat line with their cleave 1. Yeah, not a huge amount of attacks at 4 though. That's the only thing that's really given on the Order of Sword. But I do like them. I like what they're doing. If they currently stay at 175 points. I do love Order of Sealed Temple, but I probably would run Order of the Sword 2 MSUs to unlock Ashen Dawn. That's really it. Do I see these guys changing from 170 points? I don't know. That's not really for me to tell. I haven't proxied Order of the Sword very much. It's 55 points for additional stands, so they're a little bit on the expensive 5 for additional stands, and not having like a huge amount of support. Like support 2 with Relentless Drills is not bad. It's just kind of like, what else is there? Like they're fine as MSUs is kind of what I'm saying. Like they're very effective MSUs, and that's a nice thing to have in the faction. This kind of goes into like why Raiders are so good is because they punch up as a light MSU. It's why Wardens are so good in Dwag is because they punch up as an MSU, and also they like kill things in the same weight class very effectively. Order of the Sword is kind of one of those things. That gets us into our last order regiment. The Order of St. Lazarus, the Order of St. Leopards. These guys are 165 points. They are on medium infantry as well. They are March 6, so quicker than Order of the Sword. Clash 2, 6 attacks, 5 wounds, Resolve 5, Defense 2, Evasion 1. Not very good on the defense stats here. They have for special rules Cleave 1 and Fearsome, so they cannot be scared. Oh, no, they scare other people. So if people want to perform a combat rally or reform, they have to roll d6 and match it to their equal or less than their highest resolve characteristic in the regiment before they perform that action. If they fail, the action is lost. So not bad. Maybe because leopard, I don't really want to touch leopards. How much is their banner? 10 points. Oh, that's not very good. Well, this Order of Sword are 5 points. So if you give them a banner, they become 175 points. Additional stands are 35 instead of 55. They're Clash 2. There's no reason to veterans them, so you're kind of grabbing some like Relentless Joseph for support 2. It's not bad. Their defensive stats are a bit wanting. Like Resolve 5 on defense 2. Any cleave coming into these guys drops them down to Evasion 1, and they're just dying. Even with no cleave, defense 2 is not good, so they're just dying. You're doing a lot of damage on the wounds, but not a ton on the resolve because they're Resolve 5 base. 5 wounds isn't bad. 6 attacks is Clash 2. 3s with Clash 2 isn't bad, but they're not really like chewing through a ton of stuff. Like their whole stick is that they are decently fast at March 6 and they are cheap for additional wounds. So you want to kind of grab like 6 stands, maybe 8 stands, run around with support. But they're kind of weirdly better militia, strangely enough, because militia are the same defense profile, actually worse defense profile. They have a better defense profile than militia. If I grab 8 of these guys and a Servite, you're 265. So Standard Bearer, Servite with 8 stands of militia is 265. Order of St. Lage with 6 stands and a Standard Bearer is 280. You're probably going to live longer than militia, surprisingly. Just because you're 5 wounds, Resolve 5, and Evasion 1. So any cleave coming into you, you take it on that Evasion 1. Theus Priest casts on you to give you Evasion 2. That's great as well. The main problem of Order of St. Lazarus, though, is that they are restricted. And the Priory Commander has the best regiment in the game. That is the Ashen Dawn, probably the best regiment in the game. Like, there's arguments that it is the best, but it for sure is in the top 3. Easily, maybe even top 2. Ashen Dawn here. There is no reason to grab Order of St. Lazarus. That's the issue. Because if I'm going to take 2 Order of the Sword, why would I take Order of St. Lazarus when I could have Ashen Dawn? That's really it. Even with the changes to Ashen Dawn, that they are 250 points and 90 points for additional stand, that still isn't enough points to deter me from not taking Ashen Dawn for what they do and how they do it. This is such a good unit. And that's kind of my issue with Order of St. Lazarus, that they are restricted and they are pushed up against the best regiment in the game, for sure in the faction. And they have kind of a better output. They have better defensive stats than militia and better output than like men-at-arms. And yeah, like that's kind of my issue. Like they're not great. They're not good. They're too expensive at just 170 points or 165 as an MSU. Like it's too much for what they're doing. They're not survivable. Like if everything goes well, they might do some good stuff, but like they're a medium, so they can score. There's not enough going for them to take them ever. And especially not enough going for them to take them instead of grabbing Order of Ashen Dawn. Would I like to see them become a mainstay? Yeah, then you know what? People might grab them. But the thing is that if people are looking to grab Ashen Dawn, they're going to grab the cheapest thing. So if Order of St. Lazarus is a mainstay at 165, you're going to grab 2 Order of St. Lazarus and then Ashen Dawn, fill out to 5, duplicate that. There you go. That's kind of the issue with the Priory Warband, is that everything revolves around the Ashen Dawn. So a lot of this stuff is really... Order of St. Lazarus are immediately cut out because they're too expensive. Crimson Tower is too expensive compared to Sealed Temple. They're 190. If Order of the Sword come out at 170, then you're just taking Order of the Sword. That's really it. Let's get into the Theus Priest. I'm pretty sure I've talked about his stuff. So I'm not going to really go into him. But we are going to go into the one regiment we haven't talked about yet. That is not out yet, but it is very interesting. Sakari. These are 140 points. They are a medium infantry. Thank goodness the priest could score when these guys come out. Oh my god, this is what I wanted. They are March 5, Clash 2, 4 attacks, 4 wounds, Resolve 4, Defense 0, Evasion 2. Okay, 140 points for that. Not bad at all. You can fill that out nicely too, because it's 40 points for additional stands. But they do have a bunch of special rules going for them. They are Cleave 1. They are Devout. They are Fearless. And they have Lethal Demise. So we've kind of talked about Devout. We're priests casting on them. They are... they auto? Yeah, they convert one failed into a success. So you're going to get priest spells off on these guys easier. They're Fearless. So they ignore the fearsome and terrifying special rules. And then they have Lethal Demise. For every failed defense roll this regiment makes, the enemy regiment in contact that causes the hit suffers 1 hit for each wound suffered by this regiment. These hits do not benefit from any other special rules and are resolved against the enemy regiment's front arc. That is a good thing to remember. So if you die from the side, you're still in the front. So shields will matter, phalanx will matter. These are also from failed defense rolls. So this is not resolve. So if I fail 6 defense rolls, my opponent will take 6 hits, and then let's say I fail 6 resolve, I will then take an additional 6 hits, and because I am 4 wounds, I will die at that point. But my opponent will only take 6 hits. So make sure you do resolve damage into lethal demise stuff, or shoot them in the face. Being resolve 4 is really good for that resolve, to like keep your guys around, to keep generating lethal demise is really nice. It's not like resolve 2 where you're just gonna take 8 damage, your opponent's gonna take 8, and then you're just gonna fail a bunch and then they're gonna die. And then evasion 2 is really interesting. This is what, the 3rd thing in the faction? 4th? Yeah, I think Imperial Ranger Corps, Hunter Cadre, Order of the Sword, and Sakari. Imperial Ranger Corps, Hunter Cadre, Order of the Sword, and Sakari. Yeah, those are the 4 things that have evasion stats in 100k, and especially with 0 defense and evasion 2. Theus Priest, Saint's Favor for +1 evasion, getting up to 3 for a turn as you're running up the table, really nice. Keeps them alive longer. You're just going to ignore that armor piercing, you're going to ignore that cleave, you're going to ignore that smite, so that's really good. Also, Standard Bearer, 5 points. Once Sakari come out, they're going to be a better babysitter for the Theus Priest than Militia. Militia just die and explode. Sakari have some more defensive stats to keep them around with that evasion 2 and resolve 4. Especially additional stands being 40 points, that's also really nice. You can just bump this up to like an absurd amount. So yeah, that's just kind of the breakdown of through all of 100k's infantry. Overall, the problem with 100k's infantry is that a lot of it is wound 4. A lot of it also doesn't have that high of resolve. A lot of it also doesn't kind of have a high attack. Usually, like, 4 is very much a regular number. Like, 4. Get rid of this Drill Master. 4. Said 4. There we go. 4. Steel Legion 5. Household Guard 4. Sword is 4. St. Lazarus, you're a 6, right? Yeah, you're a 6. Militia's a 4. Like, a lot of 4s on those attacks. There's a few things that are better, but that's usually from the horses. I think Order of Crimson Tower here are 5 attacks. Yeah, same thing with Household Knights, but you're going to be seeing a lot of 4s from 100k. 4 is a very common number, kind of stat-wise, for 100k, just especially for attacks and wounds. You're going to be seeing a defense stat that's not that great. There's many ways to change and counteract it, though, and that's like the strength of 100k is that you have a lot of options. I went deep in this episode looking at a ton of options for our infantry. There's so many things you can do, so many combination of rules. Like, next episode, I'm probably going to get into this more during the list building aspect of some stuff you can do and lists you want to play around with and look at. But 100K's power comes from its combinations and its options and its versatility. There's a reason why 100K is considered the jack of all trades faction, is because you can do a bit of what everyone else is doing. You're never left out with 100K. You'll never be the best, but you will get there. You have ways to do it. So yeah, that's a really nice thing. 100K, yeah, I think I mentioned the 100K has like the wound problem and durability just for like a low defense stat and just being 4 wounds. Very susceptible to chip damage from shooting. Very susceptible to offensive magic with their roll resolve on a lot of things. Like, the only time you really get into high resolves that can really defend yourself is if you are in the orders or Gilded Legion, or you're just bringing on a ton of guys like 8 stands of household guard and such. Especially, freaking god, especially militia. My god, you need a bunch of stands. So there are problems with it. If you're going down the veterans route, it can get very pricey very quick, trying to give everyone veterans. You can save a ton of points just going relentless drills and just grabbing more regiments, grabbing more stands, grabbing more stuff. Bodies are your friend in 100K. The only thing I would really veterans in the infantry side is Steel Legion. But if you're running an MSU, it's not really worth it. If you're running a 6 block, you could run relentless drills. The only time I wouldn't run that is if you're running a combined arms list. Like, there's ifs and buts. I would veterans Hunter Cadre, but for the volley, I would veterans Household Knights for the clash, especially for running a Death Star. So there's a couple things I would veterans, but most of the time I'm grabbing relentless drills just because it's free. And 100K needs the additional wounds from their additional stands to to survive being punched in the face, and then you also get the support from 1 to 2, or even better, 2 to 3, so you can deal damage back. Yeah. I like a lot going on here. There's a lot of roles in 100K that's being fulfilled that I like. So yeah. That, I want to say, is kind of it. I feel like I've done a sufficient breakdown specifically about the infantry, because this has gone for an hour and a half and talked about 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 regiments. Like, my god. I'm just going to do a quick check to make sure I'm not missing anybody. Chapter Mage, Imperial Officer, Mounted Noble Lord. You were in the horse episode. I don't care about you. Noble Lord, Priory and Sealed Commanders. You were in the horse one. Sword, you were in Magic. Okay, yeah. Troops-wise, I think we're good. Yeah. So, thank you for joining me today. Thanks for listening to my knowledge. I don't even know what you call this. Breakdown of 100K infantry. Next episode is going to be just lists and talking about that kind of stuff, and maybe more of a general overall and various things you can do with 100K that way, and various combinations in more depth. While this was more specifically like each individual regiment, like what its goals are, what it's doing, how it's doing it, what you can achieve with them, and so on. So yeah, Bonktable, I don't know if you know this, has a Discord, and you can join it. Description should be description. Yeah, in the description down below, you can join. The link should be there, and if you like, you can join it. You can talk to me and talk to Cass. There's tons of other people who will help you learn or know more about Conquest. And what else we got? YouTube channel. So if there are listening to this in podcast format, there's a YouTube channel. You can watch me click through everything. I don't have my calculator. It's on my second screen, but here you go. Oh, there's my desktop. Sweet. There we go. So doing well. So if you want to join that, you can also watch it live and watch me just like screw up. So that's fine. And what else we got here? Oh, Cassandra's got a Twitter, so that should be in the description below. You can join that. Yeah, thanks for coming. Bye.